So, okay, so, and I'd also love to hear, how old are your children? Are you breastfeeding now? Have you been breastfeeding? Were you breastfeeding? Are you planning to breastfeed? That's tonight's topic, because I'm going to be doing some breastfeeding questions tonight. Hot, hot, hot Florida. Yeah, Krista, I am not jealous of that. Talk to me in December, January, and then I will be jealous that you're down in Florida and I'm up here in Jersey. But not right now. Yeah, it's a little too hot. Anyway, let's for a minute also, let's take a look, before we actually get into questions, I want to show you what the Love to Dream is, because such a great product. And when I first saw the Love to Dream, I thought, I can't believe nobody ever thought of this before. I can't believe this is, was never available, or that I didn't have this for my kids. I am jealous that I didn't have this. So, I would love to show this to you. And and they're watching from their head office in Sydney, Australia. From Sydney, thank you guys. Thank you for being here with us. Okay, I hope I do it right for you. Okay, I am going to show this product because it is just one of my favorites. For those of you, and before the show, about an hour ago, I posted and people were like, oh my God, I've never seen this. And that's the response I get every time I show the Love to Dream swaddle blankets. And here's the difference with Love to Dream. This is what's so genius about it, is that when your baby is swaddled in a typical swaddle, their arms are down, which is not a natural position for a baby. Okay, babies, if you watch a baby, if you lay them down without a swaddle, their arms automatically go up like this. This is how they like to sleep. Not only do they like to have their arms up like this to sleep, but babies need to be able to bring their hands to midline, to be able to self-soothe, to be able to suck on their fingers and suck on their hands. That's a soothing action for a baby. And so when their arms are swaddled down, they're not able to do that. And so what's so genius about this swaddle is that it's a swaddle up. And that means that when you put your baby into the swaddle, which is a full sack, okay, baby's arms are in an up natural position. That means the baby can bring their arms to their mouth. That means that they're comfortable. They're not strapped down like a straitjacket. Completely amazing. That's just the one amazing feature, okay? But there's this product is so well thought out, and there's several different versions of it, which I'm going to go through all of it tonight. That's what I love about the Q&As, because we have time to talk about it. And I know you want to hear, not to mention the fact that as it relates to breastfeeding, it's a really great hand in hand with breastfeeding. And this month happens to be National Breastfeeding Awareness Month. And so the whole month has been completely dedicated to breastfeeding. Obviously for me, it's like a holiday here in our house because it's World Breastfeeding and National Breastfeeding. And so we've been posting all of your amazing stories. I still have a ton more that keep streaming in. And if you have a story you want to share, make sure that you private message me so I can put them up for you. But the thing about the swaddle up that I wanted to say when it comes to breastfeeding is that, when we have our babies and we're nursing them, especially, through the night, because babies are waking up night and day to nurse, we want to make sure that we can nurse effectively and then put the baby back down with as little disturbance as possible. The swaddle up is going to give you that opportunity to do that without disturbing the baby so much, because the baby can stay in the swaddle up when they are nursing, although because it's a zipper, I always like baby to be skin to skin with you as much as possible. You can unzip this swaddle up so that the baby, could have the skin, you could have this open while still not taking them out of the swaddle and nurse them, and then gently zip them back up and they're right back in their swaddle without a lot of fussing, without a lot of disturbance. The zipper also, because it goes from the top, you can do that, but it also goes from the bottom, which means that you can unzip the bottom part and do a quick diaper change as well. So just so many well thought out parts to this product, and there really isn't anything like it out there. Okay, this is a patented design with the swaddle arms up. Anybody in the audience, and I know the answer to this, but I want to hear you all guys say it. Anybody out there who's using the swaddle up and just absolutely loves it, who it's made a difference for you, because I know there's so many of you have used this and absolutely love the product. Joe, are you able to get my phone to work yet? Because this is really distorted and I need mine And hold on one second, guys. See, the problem is if I can't see you, then I can't tell what's going on in the chat room, and I need to hear from all of you, and I love to see the hearts. So let's get some hearts going across the screen right now. Oh, he got it fixed. That's my man. Okay, Joe is my husband. Joe is my partner. He is the person in the other room who is oh, there he is. He's the person in the room. He's not in the other room. He's the person in the room who is posting to all of you. Everybody say hi to Joe. I know you will. All right, awesome. And Joe's going to be posting as me. So if you see me posting, it's actually Joe, okay? And he'll be commenting. He'll also be putting up links for all of you so that, as I mention things as we go on tonight, you'll know exactly where to go. You can go ahead and why don't we put up the link for the swaddle ups, Joe, so that everybody knows where they can go get a swaddle up, check it out, and see the products. Oh, okay. No, I just probably didn't see it because the phone wasn't here. All right. Awesome. Yay. Okay, good. So let's move on and get to, one more question. I need to know who's new tonight. If you're new, you need to post right now, I am new, because we need to welcome you properly. Anyone who's new gets a very special welcome, and we love to welcome people into the community. So go ahead and post if you're new so I can see you there. All right, let's move on for a moment and answer one question. Here's the rule too. When I do question and answers, here's the tradition, right? No rules, just traditions. Good job, Joe. All right, so here's the tradition. The tradition is I will ask the question, I will answer someone's question, and then when we're done, we get hearts. Lots and lots of love going across the screen every time we answer a question, okay? Oh, look at everyone who's new. Yay, guys. Oh my goodness. Welcome, Allie, Victoria, Melina, Rachel, yay, yay. All right, well, you found something pretty cool here, because we do this all the time, and everyone's been having a lot of fun, and we have great partners and great prizes, so you're going to love this. All right, let's go on to the first question. First question came in from Glenda, okay? Glenda asked the question, any tips to make a 6-week-old sleep a good stretch of hours at night? He wakes up every 2 to 3 hours at night. Okay, here's my answer to your question, Glenda. You cannot make a 6-week-old sleep through the night if that's what they need to do, is to wake every 2 to 3 hours, because that's actually normal, okay? We don't want our babies to sleep long stretches if they need to eat frequently. And so if your baby's waking up during the night to eat, although I know it can be exhausting, it's still what they normally need to do. Breastfed babies typically do wake every 2 to 3 hours. Sometimes babies will go a little bit longer during the night, a little bit more frequently during the day. But if the baby's waking up every 2 to 3 hours, that means the baby's hungry, and you don't want to suppress that. You don't want to stretch that out. You don't want to make the baby try to get the baby to sleep longer. You want to try to get the feedings efficient. Nurse, use a swaddle up, do something so that the feedings can be done over and back to sleep, but you don't want to skip those feedings. It's really, really important. During the night is when your prolactin levels are the highest. Those middle of the night feedings, and for most of you guys, when you're during the night is when you have the most amount of milk. Those feedings are important in the beginning. And so no, we don't want to try to get the baby to sleep through the night if the baby is waking. Let's talk for a minute about milk, about breast capacity, and why some people, you'll talk to your neighbor or your friend or your sister, and they'll say, oh, my baby was sleeping through the night, exclusively breastfed, by 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and your baby's waking up. The reason why that happens, why some babies will go longer stretches and other babies will go shorter stretches, has to do with how much milk your breasts can hold at a given time. That means that some people will need to feed more frequently in order to give the baby the full amount of milk in a 24-hour period, while others can make more milk at a particular time, meaning they can feed less frequently and still deliver the same amount of milk. over the course of 24 hours, everybody's basically making the same amount. It's just how many feedings did it take to get there? And if your baby's waking up, it means that you need that many feedings in order to get there. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so that's breast capacity. And sometimes one breast can have more than the other, so that you'll notice that one breast has a bigger capacity. It's making more milk than the other breast. And this can also change at different times of development. Like initially when the baby's first born, you may have, you're making a lot more milk, your body's overproducing, you're more engorged. And then there's times where you may be going through a growth spurt, or not you, but the baby's going through a growth spurt where you feel like you're having to feed even more frequently to, because the baby's demanding more. So this can change and vary. But basically, when we talk about breast capacity, that's not something that you can typically change about yourself. It's just about, it's kind of unique to each mom. And so, yeah, your right side makes more. Yes, my right side made more too, Emily. All right, so most of us have one side that's more of the producer than the other. So that's very, very common. Yeah, and I think the statistics actually show that more people make more on their right side. And I know everybody's going to now post, go, no, mine was the left. I didn't say everybody, but statistics show that most people make more on the right side. If you have one side that makes more than the other, why don't you go ahead and post that right now? Which side makes more, the right side or the left side? We'll take a little poll here. Are you a righty or a lefty? Yes. Okay. Excellent. Great question, Glenda. You know what? Let's say this. It's going to pass. I know it's a hard thing to say. I remember when my little ones were babies and I was waking up through the night to nurse. And, now I have a 15 and a 13-year-old daughter. They don't wake up at night anymore. They won't even wake up in the morning. So, but it does pass, but you want to make sure that you're keeping that going and that you're not trying to get them to sleep longer. Left side, right side. There we go. Okay. Righty, lefty. With my first daughter, my right side made twice as much as my left side. And that was actually with both kids. But my first one was so picky. By the time she was 4 months old, she completely refused to nurse on the left side. It was not worth her time. Knowing her now as a 15-year-old, I totally get the personality was exactly the same. But I was able to exclusively breastfeed her on my right side for the rest of the time that I was nursing, well over a year. So you actually don't even need both sides in most cases. So that's just a little side note for you guys. I want to show you a little video, okay? Before I was talking about the Love to Dream, about the swaddle ups, and we have prizes. We're going to be giving away the swaddle ups. We're going to be giving away the 50/50s. You're going to have choices. We have a few different winners. So I'm going to show you a video right now. And basically, first of all, I want to just say, how do you enter to win tonight? The first thing you need to do is, if you guys have noticed, you're all needing to register. Okay, register on the live page that we have. There's a link right here in the post. You can go to it afterwards to register if you didn't already. Most of you already registered, pre-registered, but you need to register on that link. And then I want you to like or love this post. Hopefully love it. And then I want you to comment here, and I want you to tell me, what do you love about the Love to Dream products? What do you need? Why do you need it? How would it change your life? How would it make a difference? You can go ahead, and anytime during this live stream, I want you to go ahead and comment about that here. We're going to pick winners. It's probably tomorrow. So let me go ahead and show you a little video, because as I show the video, you'll learn a little bit more about what you love. Okay, so hold on one second. Let me play a little video for you. Here we go. There you go. All right. That was the Love to Dream Swaddle Up. Yes. And that was their regular original design. Those are for the littles, okay, when the arms both need to be in. One of the other features on this, amazing swaddle up is the fact that it has a nice snug fit through the center, and that makes the baby feel nice and secure. But at the same time, see how it kind of bows out at the legs? It allows for the hips to be in the right proper position. It's not holding the hips in. The hips need to be out. It also works really great for cloth diapering mamas too, because it will fit nicely. But this design is really, really important. So the baby's hips are out, and that's what you want. Okay. Very, very good. Yes. Okay. And let me just say, I know that video, it looks like the baby is in a car seat. That is not a car seat. That is a stroller. Okay. So you never, never, never use any kind of swaddle in a car seat. Okay. You never want to do that, but that's great for a stroller or even for a swing or a bouncy seat. There's a little opening in the back where you can strap them in. That's what you were watching in the video. But definitely no car seats. No car seats. Okay. All right. Let's get some hearts for that. And let me go on to the next question. Next question came in from Kathy. Kathy said, how do you improve the latch of a baby that's just not seeming to get the idea of what she's supposed to be doing? Okay, so great question, Kathy. And depending on the age of the baby, number one thing that I would say to you is, if you're having trouble with latch, don't wait too long to go get support from a lactation consultant, to make sure that, most of the time when I see patients and they come to me for a consultation, they're struggling with their latch, they're in pain, they can't get the baby on. So often it's just the slightest little adjustment, whether it's the way they're sitting, because the way that you sit, the way that you're supported, whether you're slouched over, the way that you're holding the baby, those positioning changes can make a huge difference in getting the baby to latch properly. So I would immediately get help, because sometimes you're just not going to know what is it that I'm doing that's making it impossible. All right. So and somebody with a lot of experience like a IBCLC is going to be able to help you with that. But on your own, just in general, as a recommendation for all moms, one of the things that is so important is doing skin to skin with your baby. And we just did a show about this. I don't know, what was it, like maybe 2 weeks ago, with Lisa Palladino. She's also a midwife and a lactation consultant. We did a whole show on skin to skin contact and all the reasons why that's important. And one of the reasons is how it facilitates breastfeeding. And it's really a miraculous thing. When the baby goes skin to skin with you, what it does is it elicits all the natural instincts in the baby to latch to the breast. And it's not something you have to force them to do in most cases. If you allow the baby to be skin to skin, the baby is naturally going to elicit all the reflexes and all the instincts to start looking for the nipple, smelling, licking their hand, and moving towards the breast. This happens about an hour or so after the birth, but it doesn't end there. As you keep going, for days, for weeks, those reflexes still kick in a newborn when the mom holds the baby skin to skin. So as much as we want to swaddle them when we want them to sleep, if you're having trouble with latching, taking their clothes off, putting them to your chest, putting a blanket over you, and just allowing the baby to be skin to skin, nurse the baby with not having the baby clothed, that's usually going to help a lot to get the baby to latch. That's if everything's normal. If beyond that, you're still having a problem with latch, you need to look a little deeper. And that's where, again, the lactation consultant can help you. Sometimes it has to do with a tongue or a lip tie. These are things that can really cause you to struggle with proper latch. Even if you've got perfect positioning, even if nothing's wrong, this can be something that's definitely interfering. And it's not always so obvious to just looking at it. You're not just going to look at the baby's mouth. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. You really need to get that evaluated. When the latch is no good, or not no good, but when the latch is not great, what's going to happen is you're going to get more sore. And also, as you continue to nurse with an improper latch, you're not going to have the milk express the same way, which means that because of supply and demand, as the milk is not coming out, you're going to start to decrease your supply. This may not be so obvious right in the beginning. You may not be worrying about it while you're engorged, but over time, it really can interfere with your supply. So getting the right latch is really, really important from the beginning. That's why you need help, okay? So make sure that you get help. All right, let's get some hearts going across the screen. Great question, Kathy. Thank you for that question. Big hearts for Kathy there. Okay, let's see here. Next question came in from, let's see, where's my next question? Rebecca. Okay, Rebecca said, I have a question about pumping colostrum. Will pumping colostrum bring my milk in faster, or take the precious colostrum from my baby, and will my milk not come in for a few days no matter what? Okay, let me just clarify this. So colostrum is that initial milk. Most of you guys know what that is. It's that thick, yellowy substance milk that comes out initially when the baby's first born. It is what we consider liquid gold because it has all the antibodies and all the nutrients that the baby needs right from the beginning to properly line the digestive system. It has all that. We just did microbirth last week. We did the microbiome. The colostrum is a big part of that, feeding the good bacteria in the gut. But that's what you're going to initially be feeding the baby. By pumping colostrum, it's not going to make your milk come in faster, okay? Because the way that milk is made is initially you're making colostrum, and then when you deliver, when your placenta comes out, there's a hormone shift that occurs that then triggers your mature milk or the regular milk to come in several days later, okay? It's that shift in the hormone from the delivery of the placenta that actually causes the transition from colostrum to mature milk. And so pumping a lot of colostrum in the beginning is not going to make your milk come in faster. And as a matter of fact, what will happen is that you'll exhaust yourself. You will make yourself sore by pumping. And then lastly, colostrum's so thick and so sticky, and there's such small amounts of it that when you try to pump it, most of the time it's going to stick to the inside of the flange and the inside of the bottle, and you'll be wasting it, where really you just need to have it go into the baby. The best thing to do is to make sure that you're nursing your baby frequently. Short, small, but frequent feedings in those first couple days is the perfect ideal thing to do. You want to keep putting the baby back to breast. You don't have to do these long marathon feeds, but put the baby to breast frequently so the baby gets those little bits of colostrum, and then the baby will go back to sleep. And what's going to be happening is as you're doing that, you're stimulating your breast to create receptors so that later on your full milk supply is good and full. And so those early feedings are important, but you don't need to be pumping it, okay? That won't make it come faster in most cases. All right, awesome. You're welcome, Rebecca. Oh, there you are. Okay, good. I hope that answered your question. Just do what comes naturally. Put your baby skin to skin. Nurse your baby the colostrum, and don't worry about pumping in the beginning. I usually say, unless you're separated from the baby, unless the baby's in the NICU, or for whatever reason you cannot be with the baby to nurse frequently in the first few days, there's really not a reason to pump in those first few days. You want to be latching and nursing, okay? And don't worry too much, because the milk may take several days to come in. Your baby's going to lose weight. It's normal for the baby to lose weight. They swallowed a ton of amniotic fluid in utero while you were pregnant. They're peeing it out, and they're taking in small amounts of colostrum. They're supposed to lose weight, and then after a few days, your milk will start to come in, and then the weight should start to go in the other direction, okay? And they should start to gain slowly, but they will start to gain, okay? Very, very good. Okay, great question. Let's all give hearts to Rebecca. She's here in the chat room. I see her there. Let's give her hearts. And let me talk about the next Love to Dream product. And this one is the 50-50. And we're actually going to be giving this away too. Do you guys know what a 50-50 is? Do any of you have one of these? Okay, look at this. So everything we were talking about before, all the great parts of the, I can't help, I hold babies, they're not even real babies, and I can't help but cuddle because I love them so much. But this one is the 50-50, which is almost identical to the regular original swaddle up that I was showing you before, okay? But the difference with this is it's a transition swaddle, which means that it can be used as a full swaddle with the arms up and in this position. But there's also, I don't know if you could see it here on the screen, there's also a zipper, okay? And what that does is it means that you can zip this arm completely out, okay? And this is how you're gonna start to transition your baby, all right? So that you can take this completely off. And you can do this one at a time. When I had Hannah, who is the creator of the amazing swaddle, a Love to Dream swaddle ups, she was on my show. I don't know, when was that, Hannah? I hope you're on tonight. If you are, love you. So I think it was like back in the spring, she was on, she was explaining to us all about it. And she was talking about how when you're using the 50-50, how great it is to take this, the best way to transition them is to wait till they're actually sleeping in their full swaddle and then unzip one arm so that they start to transition while they're asleep to having one arm free. And then once they're good with one arm, you can go ahead and unzip the other side. And that's a great way to transition them into what you would see here is when both arms are out, it's more like a sleep sack, like a regular sleep sack. What's great about, all of these too, and I want to mention this because so many times when we're talking about, swaddling a baby and we're wrapping them and you've got these gigantic blankets, not to mention the fact that it's complicated and not everybody's the perfect swaddler and how to actually keep your baby in it, not to mention do babies really like to be in that position? Most of the time not. But on top of it, you're also taking a big blanket and you're wrapping it around your baby multiple times, and you're not thinking about the fact that you're creating multiple layers. And when we talk about safe sleep, when we talk about even, at night the baby needs to be in a cool environment, this is one layer for the baby versus multiple layers of a blanket wrapped around them. So in addition to the safety of just not getting tangled in a blanket or kicking out of it and then getting it over their head, on top of that, you've also got a single layer that they cannot come out of. The neck is nice and snug fitting, so they're not going to be able to get that over their head. And that's a really great feature because you want to make sure your baby stays nice and cool, especially if they're breastfeeding. They get really, really hot too. So I would say that it's one of the really great features of it here. Yeah, I get distracted by your comments. Should we show the video on the 50-50 too? This is what I love about being able to do the Q&As because I can show you whatever I want. So let's do the video. Hold on one second. Here's the video on the 50-50. All right, watch this. Awesome. I love the videos that they make. That's why I love showing them, because just seeing the baby in it and demonstrating it, it's definitely better than what I can do here with the dolls. So you guys get a really good understanding of what there we go. Okay. Of what these products can actually do. And again, if you want to win the Love to Dream Swaddle Up, the regular original style, or the 50/50, we're going to be giving them away tonight. You just need to like or love this post, comment here, tell me what you love about them, and make sure you registered. Okay, make sure you registered. Again, that link is going to be here in the post. Do it after the show, because if you go out, you're going to miss something. So don't leave yet, but afterwards, if you didn't register, go ahead and register. All right, awesome. Let's move on to another question here. And you guys are posting questions here in the chat as well. Okay, all right, let me answer a couple of these, and we'll see if we can do some from the chat room. All right, so the question is from Shay. She said, how do I correct a painful latch? Also, I need to increase my supply dramatically and wean my son off of a supplement. Any advice? Okay, so two things are going on here. One is she's talking about a painful latch. She wants to correct that painful latch. It's something about what we just discussed earlier, which is if your latch is painful, breastfeeding should not hurt. Okay, that's just, it really should not hurt. That doesn't mean that sometimes you won't feel a little discomfort in the beginning, but if you're really in pain, there's an issue, and you need to get help for that, because like we said earlier, a painful latch means that the something's not right. The baby's not latching to the breast properly. Because of that, you're going to get sore. And then the second thing that's going to happen is that you're not able to drain the breast effectively the way you need to, remove milk from the breast. So over time, you're going to slowly start to decrease your supply. And when I look at Shay's question, and she's talking about two things together, painful latch, and she needs to increase her supply dramatically and wean her son off a supplement. Those two things are going hand in hand, probably because she wasn't effectively removing milk. I have a whole course that we are offering now. It's a webinar that we filmed several weeks ago, and it is available. Joe's going to post the link. It's all about low milk supply, and I'm talking 90 minutes on low milk supply, on everything that causes low milk supply, and then what you can do about it. There are multiple reasons of why somebody's milk supply would be low, okay? And I go over this in depth in the program. Sometimes it has to do with a perception of supply, low supply, and I know that's the next question. I'm going to get to that, meaning you really don't have a low milk supply, but you think that you do, because your perception of how much milk you should be making is not quite right with how much your baby needs. That's a perceived low milk supply. Then there's real low milk supply that can either be caused from a primary issue or a secondary issue. Primary being, some kind of a physical condition of the mom or the baby, whether it's tongue tie, as we discussed earlier, or, could be insufficient glandular tissue where you don't have enough milk glands, breast tissue to make the milk, or you've got a hormonal issue like PCOS. Those are all things that can be a primary cause of low milk supply. And then there's the secondary issue. And as I read Shay's question, it sort of speaks to that for me, which is it's something that you did, okay? Not intentionally. I don't mean like it's your fault. It's something that you did that caused that low milk supply, whether it was not latching effectively, okay? Now, it could be caused because of a tongue tie. That wasn't something you did, but it's what caused your low supply, if that makes sense. Or you tried to stretch out the feedings. You tried to get your baby to sleep longer at night when they couldn't, like our first question, and that decreased your supply. Or because you had a perceived issue, you started supplementing, or your doctor told you to start supplementing with formula when it wasn't fully necessary. That supplementation will decrease the amount that you're demanding of your body. And then over time, a short time, it's going to start to decrease your supply, not because you had a medical problem, not because the baby had a medical problem, but because of what we're doing, which is the supplementation when it wasn't necessary. Sometimes it is, but often it is not necessary. And then that supplementation causes a real issue now, which is now your supply really is low. Okay, so these are all things that we talk about in the program. And it's really important that if you're even questioning whether your supply is low, go ahead and click on that and watch the program, because it will give you so much information. Many of you were there during the webinar when I filmed it, and believe me, I spoke for a very long time. If anybody was there, you can go ahead and say, I was there and I stayed and listened. It was a long program. It's about 90 minutes. I've edited some of it out, but it is a really, really good program. I would say that if you want to, getting back to Shay's question, if you want to increase your supply dramatically, it's really important to know that the number one thing is going to be frequent removal of milk from the breast. It is the number one thing that you can do to increase your supply, is to either be feeding effectively, efficiently, and frequently, okay, or pumping. So one or the other, that milk has to constantly be draining out of the breast. It's such a common misperception that you would want to wait till you're full to feed, or you want to wait till your breasts fill up in order to go pump. It seems logical, right? But when you wait for your breasts to get full, what you're doing is you're really signaling your brain to make less milk. It's telling your body that you don't need so much, that you have too much. But when you're feeding frequently or pumping frequently so that your breasts always feel empty, that you're constantly draining them, that's actually signaling your brain to make more. And so although you may not be getting a big yield or a lot of milk each time you do it, or you're feeding your baby really, really frequently, and that's going to keep draining the breast and signaling the body, make more, make more. Again, it's all supply and demand. And that's what it's referring to when we talk about supply and demand, all right? But main thing is when you say, how do you correct a painful latch? If your latch is not good, if you've got a painful latch, you've got to correct that in order to start increasing your supply. And then of course, all these things, Shay, really require support. If you keep waiting, you can really get to a point where it's such a downward spiral that you're feeding more and more formula and less breast milk. And now you've got not only this first issue of a latch issue, but you've also got that issue of supply. And so you don't want to create two big issues. Okay, that's really difficult to come back from, although not impossible with the right support. But get on it right away. Okay. Hearts for Shay. We wish you the best. Okay, and I hope that that works out for you. I know that it's, the other thing. Let me say one more thing. I always have something else to say. You know who's laughing? My husband is laughing in the other room. He's like, yes, you do. You always have something else to say. It keeps what? It reminded me of something else too. When you're trying to decrease the amount of supplementation. So say you're breastfeeding and you are supplementing, but you're not supplementing a lot. Okay. So say like you're exclusively breastfeeding, but you're supplementing, like 1 bottle extra a day or just a few ounces per day. In most cases, if it's just 1 bottle a day or just a few ounces a day, you probably don't need any. If you're able to produce almost all the milk the baby needs, with the exception of maybe 1 bottle a day, you probably can produce all of it. But if you continue to keep supplementing, again, you're not going to tell your body to make more. Okay. And this happens frequently when babies go through growth spurts and you start thinking that you're not making enough, which usually starts around 2 to 3 weeks, happens again around 6 weeks, 3 months, and then 6 months. And these are just estimates. But around those times, typically people will start to supplement, or they're supplementing from the beginning just a little bit. And that little bit is just not giving the signal to the body, make more. Usually if people have a true low milk supply issue, it's more than 1 extra feeding per day. Again, you're always going to check with your doctor. You're always going to consult with your lactation consultant. Everything I'm telling you is, not the right answer for every person. But in my experience with thousands and thousands of moms over a long period of time, this is what I've seen. Okay. And if you want to start weaning off the supplementation, you can do it slowly. Just start decreasing the amount of, that bottle that you're doing, and keep doing more frequent feeding. So if you're breastfeeding every 3 to 4 hours, do it every 2 hours. Baby's going to get more milk over a 24-hour period. Okay. Let's move on and let's get some hearts for Shay. Let's get some hearts. That was a long answer, but we covered a lot of information. So a long answer there. But let's move right into something that is completely related. And this question came in from Jessica. And Jessica said, what is a normal amount of breast milk a woman should be pumping for a 3.5-month-old? I get anywhere from 2 to 4 ounces, depending on the time of day, and if I power pump, or just 20 minutes. Okay, so great question. It was a great lead-in from the last question that we just had, which is how much should you be pumping if you are pumping for your baby? Think about it. When you're breastfeeding, if you're exclusively breastfeeding, this question is kind of irrelevant, because if I told you, you need to be pumping, you need to be feeding 3 ounces, you're going to be nursing your baby. I'm like, I don't know. And I always make the analogy, and everybody always laughs about this, but this is true. If you were meant to know how much you were feeding your baby, you would have evolved. We evolved in a way that is good for survival, right? We would have evolved with a little gauge on our breast telling us, full and empty, or ounces, or, if the clock could tell us, the clock doesn't tell us how much the baby's eating. But that changes completely when you're pumping, because when you're pumping milk now, there's a reason to actually look at it. There's a reason to know. And so many moms, of course, need to pump, whether they're, exclusively pumping, or they're back to work and they're pumping for their babies. As Jessica probably is here, she's talking about how much should she get. Let's talk about the normal amount of milk. Babies will typically eat somewhere between 1 to 1.25 ounces of breast milk per hour. Okay, that doesn't mean they're eating every hour. It means that's a good way to calculate how much should you be pumping, how much would your baby be eating if you were going to leave the baby. So somewhere between 1 to 1.25 ounces per hour. Okay, think about that. If your baby's eating every 2 hours, that means the baby's probably, when they're at the breast, eating somewhere around 2 to 2.5 ounces. Okay, so if you're pumping every 2 hours, you're probably going to get about 2 to 2.5 ounces. If you know how to use your pump right, if your pump is effective, pumping can be very different than breastfeeding, but that's about how much your baby will need. If you go longer stretches and your baby only eats, every 3 to 4 hours, the baby will be eating more at a feeding, again, back to breast capacity that we talked about earlier in the show. So you would expect to see more milk. Now, this also changes throughout the day. So early in the morning, you'll notice that you have more milk. That's usually the time when you can pump maybe an extra bottle, or your baby eats on one side and they're completely satisfied and you don't even need to do the other side. That's a great time to pump. And actually, it's a great time to do it while your baby's eating. It just helps with the letdown. It helps with the oxytocin release. So if your baby's nursing on one side, you can pump the other side. Typically in the morning, that's when you have more. It's later in the afternoon. As you get later into the day, early evening, dinner time, when you're trying to cook dinner, or you're trying to eat and the baby's just screaming and wants to stay on the breast every minute, that's because your milk supply is typically lower at that time of the day. And this is pretty universal for most moms. Would you guys say that's your experience, is that you have more milk in the morning than you do in the evening? Because that's typically how it goes, all right? So, Jessica, when I read your question and you say you can get anywhere from 2 to 4 ounces depending on the time of day, there you go, okay? I would probably put money on the fact that you're getting that 4 ounces earlier in the day and you're getting that 2 ounces later on in the day, completely normal. And you might see that, if you're breastfeeding your baby, you nurse first thing in the morning, baby goes into a nice deep nap, they get a good long nap in the morning, and then maybe in the late afternoon, they're feeding more frequently, cluster feeding, and just a little bit more fussy, which they are anyway, later in the afternoon and evening, okay? So yes, more in the morning. Yeah, you wake up full, right? You wake up full in the morning. It's a good time to store a little bit of extra milk, especially if your baby's sleeping longer at night. You'll probably have a lot of extra milk in the morning. Yes, way more in the morning. Oh my goodness, 12 to 15 ounces. Okay, that's a lot of milk. All right, so some people make way more than others. Remember what I was talking about? I don't want anyone comparing Here's how much milk you need. You know how much milk you need? Enough to have your baby thrive and gain weight. That's it, okay? If your baby is gaining weight properly and adequately on your breast milk, then you're making enough milk. It does not matter. It is not an ounces thing. It is enough to keep your baby hydrated and to gain weight at an appropriate rate. That will change for each person. Some people make a lot of milk, and you'll see, we post about it all the time. Moms talking about oversupply, or they just make a lot. They're able to make a lot. If that happens with no issues, where they're not having any mastitis or plugged ducts or any problems, and they can make that extra milk, it's a great thing to be able to even donate some of that milk. And we have a lot of donor moms and a lot of moms who need that donor milk. So what could be better than to share love in that way through breast milk? And if you do make extra milk, go ahead and donate it. Your baby is going to have enough, so you don't need to store freezers and stockpile it forever. You can go ahead and share the love too. Do we have anybody who's donating milk here in the chat room? Because I know we have a lot of followers and moms here on the page that do that. You're not that worried about ounces, more about supply. Yeah, so let's talk, Emily, that's a good question. It's good that you're more worried about your supply than you are about ounces, but even about supply, your supply has to do with, again, is your baby getting enough? And let's talk about the 4 ways that you know your baby is getting enough. You know, I have a class called Simply Breastfeeding. It is a full course that, you know, I recommend to any mom who's expecting, whether it's your first baby or your 5th baby, it doesn't matter. It's a great class that will really explain to you all about what to look for initially, like how to get started so that you get off on the right foot. It's really, really important with breastfeeding that you make the most out of every moment from the first moment on. And that's really going to help you to try to avoid some of the struggle. Can you avoid everything? Not always. But if you have that knowledge, it's going to definitely help. And one of the things that I talk about a lot in the Simply Breastfeeding class is the idea of how do you know your baby got enough? We said before that it's not an ounces thing. It's not a clock thing, even though in the hospital they're going to say, you know, try to do 20 minutes on each side, you go to the pediatrician and they ask you, how long do you nurse? As if that's telling you anything. It tells you nothing. It just tells you how long the baby's been on the breast. And actually, as the baby gets older, it's usually shorter and shorter, even though they're getting more milk. But the way to know that your baby got enough, there's a few really good signs, especially for those initial weeks where you really want to make sure the baby's getting enough. So first sign is to make sure that, you know, before you start the feeding, feel your breast. They're going to feel full. Just feel around, get in the habit of kind of just quickly examining, feeling the breast, feel for any lumps, plugged ducts, but also the fullness of it. Put the baby on, nurse the baby. After the baby's done, feel your breast again. If it feels softer and you're not soaking wet, like it dripped everywhere, it went into the baby. It's a very kind of simple thing, but definitely real, okay? It was there, now it's gone. It's in the baby. That's just one sign, but it's a great objective sign to know that the baby got something. The second sign is you're going to be listening for audible swallows. That means the baby is not just sucking, but actually transferring and swallowing milk. And the way that a swallow sounds, it is in the throat. Okay, so it's usually very quiet, but if you listen, some babies are not quiet. Some babies are really loud with this, but if you listen and you start to listen for what does it sound like, once that initial a minute goes by, the milk starts to release, the letdown happens, and then you'll hear the baby, first of all, slowing down their suck, and then in between, you'll hear something like, that's the baby swallowing and transferring milk. And that's a really, really good sign that I want you to look for, because that's actually going to tell you that the baby's still eating, not just sucking, but eating. And as you get better and better at it, you'll be able to tell oh yeah, that was a great feeding. Has nothing to do with the time. You'll just be listening. You'll be, paying attention, closing your eyes, and you can hear your baby swallowing, and you just had a really good feeding. So that's the second sign. The third sign, you've got a loud one. Yeah. Baby is very loud. Yeah, and you're going to get to know, it's not a breath. A breath is through the nose, so it sounds like okay? The swallow is like in the throat. Okay. And then the third sign is that the baby is peeing and pooping properly. Okay. And that means, especially pee, the pee is really important. That's going to tell you that the baby is hydrated. And we want to see the baby urinating, peeing at least 6 to 8 wet diapers in a 24-hour period. Since you can't really measure what's going in, you're going to be measuring what's coming out. And so the wet diapers are very, very important to pay attention to. Once your full milk is in, your baby should be peeing a lot, okay? I always say that, I hate for you to have to keep track of things. I hate for you to have to keep journals. I want you to focus all your time either on feeding your baby or sleeping, okay? Not taking notes. And that's really, something that but you do need to monitor it. So a really good tip would be to just take a stack of diapers, whether they're your cloth diapers or your disposables, take a stack in the morning, put them out, and keep taking from that stack as you're changing the baby each time. That way, if you have any question in your mind, how many diapers have you gone through, you can just look at the stack to tell you in case you have any kind of question. Most of the time, it's just so much that you're not even thinking about it, but that way you don't have to write anything down. And in the beginning, you want to be seeing poops too, okay? So you want to be seeing a lot of poops. Usually they're doing it several times a day. Once it transitions from that meconium in the beginning, it's going to turn into a yellow, seedy poop. In young babies, we want to see them pooping frequently, okay? By the time they turn about 6 weeks, babies can go days and days without pooping, and it can still be normal. But in those early weeks, we want to see them pooping regularly, that yellow seedy. It's telling us that good amounts of breast milk are going in. Okay, so that's the third sign. And then the last sign, we're almost done here, that last sign is a happy and content baby. Now, that doesn't always just happen just on its own. And that's where something like the Love to Dream Swaddle Me comes into play, okay? You've nursed your baby's nice and full, you've heard all that swallowing, you are ready to put your baby back down, and the baby may need just to have that extra bit of soothing and to have that confinement of the swaddle. And that's where it's really going to help to tell you that the baby is not hungry. If the baby is able to soothe and to relax once they're swaddled, a hungry baby doesn't just go to sleep and just, stop crying. A hungry baby will tell you they're hungry. If they're crying, you can go ahead and put them back on your breast. But lots of times babies need to be soothed, they need to be swaddled, and they need to be able to use their hands. And that's why this Love to Dream is such a great product that goes so well hand in hand with breastfeeding, because it's going to help you to know that your baby's fine, that your baby is able to sleep, your baby is able to soothe, and that to tell the difference between hunger and just needing to be soothed. Okay, and then that's going to get you to be able to have some sleep as well. We want babies to be well fed. We want them to be safe. We want moms to be happy and as rested as possible. And all these things together are going to make for that hopefully easy transition into motherhood, which is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of your journey, but hopefully all the information tonight, as well as the introduction to Love to Dream, or reintroduction for some of you, is going to be that perfect combination to make it a little bit easier. I want to thank my partners, Love to Dream, in Australia, here in the United States. They're all around. They're here on the chat. I so enjoyed having you with us tonight. Everybody loved it. I loved all of your products. I'm so happy to be able to work with you guys, some of the best people in the world. And to all of you guys who watched tonight, I love you so much. I am so happy to be able to spend this time with you. I'm so happy the videos, the shows are making a difference. I love your messages that you're sending me every day, telling me like how much of a difference it's making for you. It is just the joy of my life to get your messages and to know that. And Joe will attest to that, how happy I am when I see your messages. So if you have messages for me, go ahead and send them. I love getting your messages. And anyone who's going to be in Chicago next weekend, I will be there. Is anybody going to Chicago? because if you are going to be there, I need you to come and give me a hug and say hello. Love to Dream is going to be in Chicago too. Hi, Luann. And so we're all going to be there together. Jamie's going to be there. Dawn's going to be there. I'll be speaking the whole time, which I can do, I can speak the whole time. But if you are going to be in Chicago, please, please, please come and say hi to me and introduce yourself, because I love hugs and I love to meet you in person. I'm going to say goodnight for now. Make sure that you registered. Make sure you love this post, comment here so you can win the fabulous prizes. And then stay tuned for our next show, which is coming up this Tuesday night with Rebecca Mickey. We have a great show for you on Tuesday. I'm going to be announcing it tomorrow. Love you guys so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful night. Kiss your babies. Mwah. Bye, everyone.